Lesson 18. Above the human mind, dominating it and forming the source from which it derives its existence, stands universal intelligence, or cosmic mind. This, the second of the four main aspects of universal life energy, is the beginning and the end of everything that has been, is, or ever will be known. It includes all knowledge, not only of the past and present, but of the future also. It is limitless, unrestricted by any bounds. It is perfect, free from the taint of any wrong or error. The human mind, on the contrary, is like a garden patch staked out in the middle of this virgin mental soil, limited by the bounds of human experience, ignorant of all except what grows within its borders and foul with the evil drainage from uncounted centuries of corruption by mankind. This dubious garden patch is called subconsciousness, and from it people live almost exclusively, raking up the morsels which they feed to their conscious selves and in return planting there indiscriminately the seeds of impressions which come to them in their stale fare. Yet all great ideas, all inventions and discoveries which add to the sum of human knowledge, come invariably from cosmic mind, never from subconsciousness. Everything within the present limits of subconsciousness is second-hand. It has been chewed up and digested and modified countless times since its discoverer first put it there, but it has never shoved back the bounds of human experience any further, opening up new territory for exploitation. Something new can come only from the untapped resources of universal intelligence, and when it does come it is fresh, perfect and unspoiled, because imperfection cannot exist above the level of the conscious self which manufactures it out of perversions of true knowledge. These new additions are prized above all things on earth. They bring fame to poet, artist, musician, scientist and all alike. They are called creative thought. The reason so few people are channels for creative thought is not because they lack genius or some rarely bestowed talent, but because under ordinary conditions it is very difficult to contact consciously universal mind. Genius is not a peculiar quality imparted by the grace of God to specially favored individuals. It is a faculty knit into the mental and physical composition of every living being, undeveloped in most but present in all. It consists of the ability to contact cosmic mind and is called in its mental phase inspiration. The physical organ through which inspiration functions is located almost in the center of the brain, as was explained in Lesson 10, and is known as the pineal gland. The pineal gland, therefore, is the seat of what is commonly termed genius. That is to say, it is the skylight in the narrow chamber of consciousness, opening out on the superconscious mind ray which links you directly to cosmic mind. In contradistinction to the trapdoor of memory, through which you fish out the preserved knowledge in your subconscious cellar, inspiration gives you access to the fresh supply of all knowledge at its source, without the necessity for going through the tedious process of learning it. Learning is a function associated only with subconsciousness. Ideas derived from superconsciousness are never extracted by learning, but pour down richly of their own volition. The more strongly your inspirational channel is developed, the more illustrious, fine and great will be the thoughts that come to you through it. So-called accidental discoveries, such as those made by renowned scientists, are not at all the fortuitous happenings they seem to be. They came as the inevitable result of a procedure by which the law of supply and demand, which works instantaneously on the mental plane whenever it is given the opportunity, was successfully put into operation. The individual was eager to know a certain thing, creating the demand, superconsciousness held the answer, or supply, the channel of inspiration between the two was open and the answer poured in. That individual may not have known that his inspirational channel was so well developed, may not realize that he has ever done anything to develop it and may therefore attribute his sudden information to accident, but it was an accident, very logically and certainly brought about by himself. The discoveries made in this way are few and far between because they are seldom sought intelligently. Human beings as yet know very little about that marvelous mechanism of their mind, whose mysteries are just beginning to unravel. The purpose of vital mental organs and centers has hitherto been obscure, and only now has that obscurity been dissolved in an understanding of how to handle properly the mental instruments which project, receive and control thought vibrations. If you know, you can. A clear comprehension of the purely mechanical aspect of thinking will enable you to contact universal intelligence whenever you need or desire it. The process by which this contact is established is as follows: when you enter into silence and make the contact with universal life energy, think very strongly of the thing you want to know. Concentrate your mind on it, so that the problem-demanding solution occupies all your thought and attention and glows forth in commanding relief above everything else. Make it the focal point of your keen interest and desire to receive the information you lack, and invest it with intense life through the realization I need that answer. Therefore, because of the law of supply and demand, I shall, with the help of the great law, have it. Then lapse into a still and receptive attitude. Be serenely passive, relaxed and open to the silent with superconsciousness that your initial activity has established. Above all, do not let willpower intrude upon that confident stillness, and do not admit any annoying doubts or fears. Only through complete relaxation, absolute harmony with the perfect part of your mental nature, can proper results be obtained, and complete relaxation cannot exist unless all personal influences are utterly in abeyance. If that procedure has been effectively carried out, you will presently discover that the very knowledge you seek has come to you. The vacuum in your consciousness has been filled. The answer may burst suddenly in a blaze of light, or it may glimmer dimly forth at first. Nurse that faint glimmer, help it along mentally, until soon it burns ever more strongly and clearly. Moreover, do not be discouraged if you fail to get results at once. Perfect relaxation is not an easy thing to achieve. In fact, it is the most difficult of any mental feats, because mind is volatile, quick, full of aggressive activity. Contact with universal intelligence requires stillness, passivity, a rich sense of harmony within. Yet as in everything else, practice and training will develop the necessary poise in the most unruly intellect, and no price you can pay in patience and perseverance is too great if it brings you the power to contact at will the eternal source of all knowledge. Your conscious perception of what comes to you from cosmic mind through inspiration is known as intuition. It is that marvelous quality you possess which enables you to sense things and know them to be so without going through the ordinary process of reasoning. Your reason is part of the filtering system between your consciousness and your subconsciousness. It strains the good out of what you get from that tainted subconscious supply and retains it for conscious use. But the knowledge received from superconsciousness is already pure, it does not need to be filtered, it is poured in fresh and sweet through the pipeline of inspiration and the open tap of intuition. Intuition is constantly functioning, it is the still, small voice within you which whispers what to do and what not to do. But unfortunately its advice is delivered in a tone which is below the level of ordinary perception. Few people listen to it, and fewer still heed its promptings, because their reason clamorously refuses to acknowledge as right any information received through intuition. Reason is the very valuable faculty on which we are accustomed to rely, because we live for the most part on what reason strains out of subconsciousness. Yet reason in its present state of development is very limited. It deals only with that which is already known, for which there is a precedent somewhere in human experience, and abhors originality. All that comes from outside the scope of reason is beyond its control. Reason cannot get a leverage on it and therefore rejects it. Yet reason itself is prone to error, often wrong and often balked in its task. Where reason fails, intuition succeeds. The solution which your rational mind could not patch up out of the problem submitted to it exists rounded and complete in your superconsciousness and will drop neatly into place if you let it. Promote cooperation between reason and intuition and you will have a combination that is infallible. Learn to know the so-called hunch when you meet it, distinguish it from the subtle imitations your reason may try to palm off through your too impatient desire, give it the place it merits in your esteem. The more you develop harmonious relations between your reason and your intuition, the more abundantly you will realize that dominant feature of a mastermind which is called the sixth sense, and toward which evolution is gradually lifting humanity. One attribute of intuition which emphasizes sharply its contrast to reason is promptness. Delay and indecision are associated with the cumbersome rational processes. What comes from intuition is instantaneous. Time is an element which does not enter into it, because there is no laborious progress from one conclusion to another, from one fact to a suggested hypothesis which may be wrong and throw you off the track. The information and ideas are delivered complete, fully formed and ready for use. This attribute is one that should be, but often is not, woven by ties of action throughout the whole scheme of your mental and physical existence. Too often people allow themselves to become snarled in a web of fruitless reasoning, hopeless of finding a solution but still aimlessly plucking at the tangled strands. Or they swerve aside from the task in hand to dissipate time and energy in building air castles of easy fancy, instead of laying the practical bricks which will make that fancy a fact. Now, the eternal and ever-present now, is one precious asset which you cannot afford to squander. This instant, capped with action, becomes a coin of real achievement. This instant, sunk in inertia, is a loss that can never be redeemed. You live only once, and that once is now. All your energies, all your qualities, all your faculties, are centered upon the present moment. It is the vital point, the single hot and living tip through which you can burn your whole life record of constructive activity into the stubborn fabric of mankind. The past is gone, you cannot alter it, the future is to come, you cannot touch it. But the present is here, and you can score strong and deep in it. Except in mortal existence there is no past and future. Divisions of time vanish outside of limited and divided minds. Eternity knows no such division, it includes both past and future and is itself simply an eternal and ever-present now. But the human mind, inside the self-erected mental walls which made it human, cannot comprehend eternity and has enslaved itself to the very limitations which it fashioned. It possesses only the moment to tie to its lost heritage, and only through the proper appreciation and use of that moment can it win back something of what it has lost. Yet how few people realize the value of that intense and living now in which their lives are packed. Some lag in the burned-out past, indulging fond memories of what has been once but is no more, which is beyond their reach and out of their control. Their energies are wasted blowing on cold embers, the spark has fled far on before and will not pause for wishes or regrets. Their one resource is to speed after it and use it while they may, yet they linger amid the melancholy ashes of recollections which can never warm them again. Such individuals waste the only profit to be derived from the past. They rake together their little hoard of experiences, treasure and fondle them one by one, but never put them to the practical use for which they are intended. Experiences are lessons to teach you how to do better, fuel to be poured on the flame of the living now so that it blazes ever more fiercely and effectively. But fuel which is never burned is no fuel at all. The most dreary and unhappy past is a mine rich in tinder for those who are wise enough to perceive and courageous enough to take advantage of it. The greater an error the more vividly it stands out. A past sown thick with troubles, limitations and disharmonies, is a past crammed in invaluable lessons for the present. Each mistake carved in bold relief there points a flaw to be avoided, a lack in your character to be corrected. But mourning over the mistake will repair neither it nor its cause. Once made, it cannot be unmade. It can only be counterbalanced. Idle regrets and self-pity are futile, they merely blind you to the profit you might have and beguile you into wasting more of the precious, fleeting present. Action is the only corrective for error. Your errors are meant to serve you, make them do it. Refuse to sympathize with yourself over them, analyze them critically and intelligently for the cause in yourself, and thus make them stepping stones to strength and efficiency. A happy and successful past, on the other hand, is a stimulus, especially if your present condition is in contrast to it. What you have done once you can do again, but you must do it. Face yourself squarely, pick out the weak and rotten spots that have invaded your character, and set actively about getting rid of them. In either event, the key to the situation is immediate action. Wishing alone never achieves anything. You have three tools at your disposal: an inexhaustible supply of energy, a certain array of faculties, and the single incandescent point on which they all converge. Now, that point in action expresses all the rest. Idle, it represses them. Those who live in the future, on the contrary, are in an even worse plight than those who live in the past. The latter have at least something substantial, even if they never use it, but the former have nothing at all. They dwell in a world of dreams, a pleasant fiction piled up out of the silent vacancies of their imagination and planted like a mirage in the midst of an arid desert of daily routine. That soft world is far more enticing than the harsh monotony of the real one. It is the drowsy lotus land of weak desire, steeped in enchantment, murmurous with promise, bright with easy adventure and costing never a pang in effort expended or enterprise shattered on the rocks of failure. But to succumb to its charm is to transfer all your energies gradually into its non-existent bounds. This is the living death. Asylums are full of people in whom this process has been carried to the ultimate extreme. They are mere clods of flesh from which all conscious life has been drained away. They are immune to pain, indifferent to food, blind to their surrounding and incapable of voluntary motion. Needles thrust into their flesh produce no reaction, sustenance is forced into them through a tube to keep them from starving, their eyes are blank and lusterless. Their bodies exist here, but they are elsewhere. Such people are simply at the far end of a road partially traversed by many. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. If your heart is in the activities of your present everyday life, if you see the joy of achievement and the virgin gold of opportunities, if your eye sparkles with the wine of strength and power, your treasure will also be in the deeds you do and the things you accomplish. But if your heart sits in a remote and airy palace of dreams, withdrawn alike from the challenges of actual life and the constructive activities they inspire, your treasure then will be in the unsubstantial coin of dreams and naturally of no material value to you. To live in the future is to pour your energies into a bottomless pit which they can never fill. The precious stream plunges down out of sight, out of sound, forever lost in the unknown which swallows it. There is no more absolute waste of power than to hurl it to utter extinction in a future which does not exist. Dream? Yes. But know it for what it is, a dream, a shadow. Never let it fasten upon you the illusion of reality and drink up the only energies which could ever make it real in fact. Great men are all dreamers of dreams, but never that alone. They are supremely men of action, ready to let their imagination shadow forth that which would be desirable only that they may use the shadow as a pattern on which to erect a fact. What points their life is not their past, flaring like the luminous tail of a comet far behind over their course, nor the future, that dark illimitable void into which they cleave a fiery way, but the brilliant, flaming, vital now, boring magnificently onward, concerned only with itself and heedless of all that of which it is the focus. Very often the criticism is made, especially of this present age and its prominent representatives, that it is too practical. No loftier commendation could ever be bestowed upon any era or any individual. To be practical means to put a thing into practice, to apply it, to rear a dream in matter. It means to do, to achieve, to construct, which is after all the only thing that counts in human life. That is the purpose for which we are here, the reason why we are fitted together and armed with the living spark of the immediate now. When we are practical we use that spark, we fulfill that purpose. When we ignore it we slight the power who created us, all prayers and protestations to the contrary. Therefore now is the single instant on which all things from every plane converge. It is the soaring pinnacle from which you survey past and future, to which you gather the far-flung threads that you weave into the fabric of your mortal career. The past is not useless, each cause sown there is still connected with an effect to come. The future is not a void alone, it holds the dreams from which those effects will be born. But the myriad threads which unite the two through the eye of one needle, yourself, and those threads you can see and control. This is the law of cause and effect whose operation, consciously or unconsciously directed, governs every life, but on which conscious, intelligent direction can be exercised only through the ever-present now. Success in any case is a product of the living now. The opportunities from which great things are unraveled flash by within reach only within the limits of that moving instant. Grasped and traced to their conclusions they sum up the margin that differentiates the great from the little men. Allowed to slip past untouched, they spell failure and barren mediocrity. Just as you brand your character on life through that one sliding instant, now, so life in its turn spurts through to have its effect on your character. Strength, efficiency and self-reliance are developed by adversity, by meeting and conquering the obstacles that oppose your progress. Now is the only time you can reconstruct and fortify your inequalities, because now is the one and only opening through which you can reach them. They do not exist anywhere else, past or future. They exist only in you, and you exist only now. Therefore pour all that you are, all your energies, all your thoughts, all your activities, into the present scorching instant. Make now the vital nucleus about which everything else is erected, to which everything else tends. Estimate all values first in terms of now, be alert to perceive and grasp your advantage now, and above all decline to waste time and effort in worry about the future. The future will take care of itself because of the law of cause and effect. You cannot reach it and you cannot modify it except through the present living now. The foursquare of life, mind, Truth and love on which these lessons are based form the frame in which the blazing lens of now is encased. If it is lopsided, short-cornered and faulty, the ray of yourself projected through it will be lopsided, short-cornered and faulty. You will have a correspondingly perverted and untrue perception of whatever you undertake, and you will perform it in the same way. But fundamentally your consciousness is laid true and perfect to the four square. The reason it appears imperfect is because of the successive films of evil, limitations and false concepts which you have permitted to collect like grime upon it. Bring your activities to the test of the four square, detect and wash away one by one those clogging films of grubby fallacies, until gradually, as each wrong concept is sluiced off, the perfect proportions of the eternal reality back of them begin to emerge. Then will the poise and equilibrium that is the keystone of power return to you. You will look with clean eyes, confident and sure, upon a new world of freedom, strength, beauty, and success. Finally, the question has often been asked, what shall I do to become a mastermind? How can I equip myself to solve all problems, to perceive true motives, to understand and appreciate rightly everything and everybody? How can I attain wisdom, that topmost peak of mental accomplishments? The answer to that query lies in yourself. Infinite power, an inexhaustible supply, is at your command. All wisdom, a limitless and perfect store, awaits your touch. Within you are the doors through which to unite them into expression. Open those doors. These lessons have revealed to you this power, its nature and how to contact it. The lessons on mental force have furnished you with a complete understanding of the mechanics of mind, its departments, their contents, their relations one with another and with you. Study those lessons. What they teach is clear and simple and requires no special training to assimilate and digest them. They are adapted particularly to meet the general public demand for plain, practical information which will enable the great untrained majority to obtain higher and greater knowledge. Then put them into practice. What you have been told is useful only as you use it. The knowledge imparted here is the most advanced of all knowledge, but those who never try it out will never realize that. Yet the results obtained by students who really assimilate it and put it into practical application now are beyond the most convincing descriptions. Exercises. Continue to practice the star exercise morning and evening, together with relaxation, silence and continual contact with universal life energy. Then, as the new exercise for this week, train your aroused faculties for efficient contact with cosmic mind through the process known as polarization. Polarization means to adjust and integrate yourself with something, to attune yourself to such sympathetic accord with it, that it becomes one with you. Your separate identity melts away like ice in water, and the two become single, undivided. In this instance you are to polarize yourself to universal mind, the harmonious and perfect source of all knowledge. The way to proceed is as follows: during the silence, after you have made the contact with universal life energy and feel the force flowing strongly, concentrate your thought upon universal mind. Perceive that mind in its real aspect, not as limited, perhaps restricted to this planet and to human beings like the atmosphere, but as unlimited, universal. Realize that it impregnates all space, all matter, a limpid essence in which the stars swim and infinity reposes. Appreciate the unbroken harmony, the faultless unity of all knowledge, which comprises that essence. Reflect it in your own mind as a clear pool might reflect a pure, fresh sky. Lose yourself in it, understand your oneness with it and your ready, sensitive response to its clear melody of silent perfection. The more you attune yourself in this way to cosmic mind, the more strongly your pineal gland, the wireless station of your superconsciousness, will function. It will catch the vibrations from above and pour them in increasing abundance into your brain. Presently, having sensitized your brain sufficiently through the flood of universal life energy with which you are constantly drenching it, you will become aware of those higher mental vibrations which ordinarily are too subtle to be registered consciously. Take care not to force yourself into the desired condition by willpower. The temptation is great, but to yield to it is fatal to your purpose. All the energy possible must be directed into that exercise, but it must be directed through the law which governs universal power, not by willpower which opposes it. The benefit of this exercise is not restricted to your inspirational channel alone. It spreads through all associated activities, primarily intuition. Not only is that invaluable faculty developed, but it is coordinated with its most active enemy, reason. The two are brought into a harmonious relation which brings forth in you that sixth sense previously mentioned, and which is the goal toward which humanity is struggling in its evolutionary process. Questions and answers to Lesson 18. 1. What is cosmic mind? Cosmic mind is the universal source from which all knowledge is derived, the second of the four main aspects in which universal life energy manifests itself. 2. How is it distinguished from subconsciousness? It is distinguished from subconsciousness by the fact that it is limitless and perfect, in contrast to the limited and imperfect subconscious supply of knowledge, corrupted by conscious perversions and confined to the bounds of human experience. 3. Through what channels, mental and physical, is it connected with consciousness? The mental and physical channels connecting cosmic mind with consciousness are inspiration, whose physical organ in the brain is the pineal gland. 4. What law is put into operation in contacting cosmic mind? The law put into action in contacting cosmic mind is the law of demand and supply. 5. What condition must prevail in the individual to enable that law to function? The condition that must prevail in the individual to enable that law to function properly is a condition of absolute tranquility and harmony, free from any stress that might interfere with complete relaxation mentally and physically. 6. What is intuition? Intuition is conscious perception of information received from cosmic mind through inspiration. 7. Define its relation to reason. Its relation to reason is, reason opposes intuition, unwilling to accept new knowledge for which no confirming precedent exists in subconsciousness. 8. What is the ever-present now? The ever-present now is the single and only instant of actual life. 9. Of what value is the past? The value of the past is to reveal the flaws in character responsible for errors, thus showing the individual how to guard against similar mistakes in the present. 10. What is the danger of the future? The danger of the future is the dream it holds, which, uncontrolled, may dominate you and drink up energies and attention meant to be expressed in constructive activity now. 11. How are power and greatness achieved? Power and greatness are achieved by action, to which dreams, memories, faculties and powers are all coordinated and directed. 12. How is it possible to become a mastermind? It is possible to become a mastermind by clearing away, through your knowledge of mind and the constant intelligent use of universal life energy, the successive films of limitations and false concepts which obscure fundamental perfection of your mind,